I wonder if the black community will keep the same energy when this excuse is used when a white person does something like this. Welcome to Unifier TV, where truth has no fear. This is one of the craziest stories I've ever seen in my life, and the resolution is even crazier, and the reasoning is even crazier than that. Let me backtrack a little bit. The story stems from an altercation that took place in May 2021 at a Dunkin' Donuts involving Corey Pujols and Vanell Cook. See, the two got into an altercation because Mr. Vanell Cook, the 77-year-old man, called Corey, the 27-year-old man, the N word. Yes, Corey is black, and yes, Vanell is white or was white. Vanell has actually passed away. See, Corey decided to punch Vanell in the face because he called him the N word on more than one occasion. Apparently, Vanell was a regular at this Dunkin' Donuts in Tampa, showed up all the time. I'm not saying that it gives him the right to do this. However, we don't see any other incidents involving issues with Vanell according to the storylines that I read on multiple sources. We don't see that Vanell was a problem on any other occasion. So I don't know exactly what took place this day that caused these two to have an altercation. But the altercation got out of hand. Corey decided to punch Vanell in the face after walking from around the counter. Vanell came into the restaurant. After being in the drive-thru and having some kind of issue with the order, Vanell decides to come inside, confront Corey, the manager, and then once he called him the N-word, Corey came from behind the counter, got into Vanell's space, and he called him the word again after he asked him not to, and that's when Corey decided to haul off and punch Vanell in the face to the point where he fell on his back and fractured his skull, and he died 3 days later. Corey is not charged because the resolution in the case said that the circumstances which took place, the aggressive nature that Vanell displayed, even though the multiple storylines and reports don't say anything about Vanell actually posing a physical threat. Yes, he might have been loud. Yes, he might have been rude. Yes, he did use the N-word. That much is evident, according to the story. However, it doesn't say anything about Vanell trying to physically assault Corey. It doesn't say anything about him getting into his personal space. It doesn't say anything about him threatening him with anything. But Corey was offended by the use of the N-word and decided to subsequently murder Vanell. It doesn't matter how you slice it, murder is murder. The reasoning for the case said that he didn't intend to do it. He didn't mean to do it and it was unintentional. Well, if you want to make that argument, it was also unintentional for Derek Chauvin to kill George Floyd. It was also unintentional for Kim Potter to kill Deontay Wright. It was also unintentional for the officer in, was it Atlanta, Garrett Rolfe, to kill Rayshard Brooks. So we keep seeing these stories pop up, but when it's a white officer and a black, sometimes criminal, sometimes situations are different every time. However, when it's a white officer involved in it or a white person involved in killing someone black, the storyline is always presented differently. So let's flip roles here. Say that a white manager of Dunkin' Donuts decided to punch a black person, older, younger, whatever, to the point where they fell out, cracked their skull, and died 3 days later. How much public outrage and how much of a big storyline do you think this will be? I had to find this story by accident. So murder is murder, whether it was an unintentional or intentional. The thing is, how many times have we seen one of these officers get off with, I didn't mean to do it. It was unintentional. The history of the officer or the person involved doesn't seem to play a role when the officer is white. But now, according to the storyline, they wanted to point out the fact that Mr. Cook, the 77-year-old who passed away, was a sex offender. They wanted to bring up his criminal history. And because Corey, the manager, didn't have one, they said, you know what, he didn't mean to do it. Let's go ahead and let him go. He was ordered to house arrest. No jail time, house arrest and anger management classes and community service. Because of the fact that the N-word was used, they said Mr. Cook showed aggressiveness, even though they didn't say he tried to physically harm Corey. And because of the fact that Mr. Cook had a criminal history and Mr. Pujols didn't. So why are we allowing these things to play a role when they don't play a role in police officers situations? You can have an officer, a decorated officer, never had a problem, but the one time a mistake is made when it's involving a black person, it's time to crucify them. It's time to see them serve life in prison. So Kim Potter didn't mean to do it. Garrett Rolfe had a right to take down Rayshard Brooks because Rayshard Brooks tried to take him out, and he got off, thank God. But they wanted to see him crucified too. Derek Chauvin, in my opinion, didn't mean to take out George Floyd, but George Floyd was the aggressor initially. People don't want to believe it. I'm not going to dissect that. But did he mean to kill him? I don't think so. So why isn't he given that same position of, hey, look, let's look at the history. Let's look at Kim Potter's situation. So we don't enough use fairness when it comes to circumstances. We want to look at race. Let's be honest here. If the race was on the other foot, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. It'll be a public outrage immediately. So I don't see the fairness in this situation, and I don't think criminal history or someone being a sex offender should matter. You put your hands on someone and that person lost their life because you allowed yourself to get out of control over a simple word. And yeah, oh, it's not a simple word. It's offensive. It may be offensive, but so is the word Karen to a lot of white people. So what's going to happen if one of these Karens hauls off and punches a black person that calls them Karen and fractures their skull and they die? What do you think would happen? What do you think the news and media outrage will be? So fairness has to be done all across the board, and race should not be the contributing factor in justice.